My daughter-in-law told me I'm not welcome in my son's home anymore. She said it softly, almost polite, as if she was asking me to pass the salt. The kettle hummed behind her, and the steam fogged the small kitchen window. I was holding a spoon, stirring the tea I had made for the three of us. My hand did not stop moving, but the spoon hit the side of the glass, and the sound felt like a knock on a door that would not open. The words did not come from anger. They came like doors closing quietly, one after another, until I found myself standing alone in a hallway that used to be busy with love. I looked at Nadia's face. Her lips were tight, her eyes steady, and her voice calm. In that calm voice, she said again, "Auntie, it's better you don't come here anymore." I smiled instead of crying. It was an old habit, one I learned long ago, when pain loved to visit but never stayed for tea. I placed the spoon down and whispered, "Bismillah." My heart was heavy, but I kept it inside. The kettle clicked off, and the silence was loud. I wanted to ask, what changed? I wanted to say, this is my son's home. But I remembered my faith, my age, my small bones full of old stories and older prayers. I remembered the lesson from my mother, never scratch a wound with a sharp tongue. So I stood, with my small smile, and I looked down at the tea cooling in the glass. Omar was not home. He had left early for work. I had come to drop off some food and to water the plant I had placed by their window, a plant that seemed happier here than it ever was with me. I had keys, but I rang the bell anyway. And now those keys felt heavy in my pocket, like questions I could not answer. I picked up my prayer beads from the counter. The tiny wooden spheres felt warm even though my fingers were cold. I tried to remember the smell of my son when he was a baby, the sound of his small laugh, the way he would hold my scarf when he was afraid. Memories are kind, but they can also burn. I looked at Nadia and said, "If that is what you want, I understand." My voice was steady, but I could feel the sea inside me starting to move. I could feel the wave that was coming. I was not ready for it. But I stood there, and I waited for the strength that always comes after the first pain. That was the morning the story began to change, though the story had begun long before. It began with a young girl named Fatima, a quiet home, and a boy who grew up with too much love and too little space to keep it. It began with faith, with patience, with the kind of trust that sits by the window and waits for the light. If this story touches your heart, please follow the channel, like the video, and share it with someone who might need it today. My name is Fatima. I am an old woman now, with hands that remember more than my tongue can say. My bones are not heavy, but they ache when the rain comes. My heart still wakes before dawn, the way it did when my mother would nudge my shoulder and whisper, "Fajr, my daughter, get up while the angels are listening." I live in a small apartment in a building that used to be louder than it is now. Children have grown, families have moved, and time has made the walls quiet. From my window, I can see the street, a narrow road where men still sell bread and flowers in the morning. Sometimes, if I open the window, I can smell cardamom drifting from the tea shop at the corner. My day is simple. I wake before the adhan. I sit on my prayer mat in the pale light that sneaks in under the curtain, and I ask Allah to fill my day with gentleness. I touch the beads of my tasbih and count blessings. On some mornings, when the air is very still, I read a little from the Quran that belonged to my husband. The pages carry his scent still, like a small echo of him. My husband's name was Yusuf. He was a quiet man, with eyes full of patience. He ran a small shop that sold household things, nails, string, buckets, light bulbs, the kind of items that people wanted when they had a problem to solve. He liked that simple work. He liked helping people fix small problems. We were not rich, but we were not poor in the ways that matter. We had a modest home, with a kitchen that always smelled like onions and cumin, and a living room that felt warm even in winter. We had one son, our Omar. He was a gentle boy, thin and quick, with a laugh that filled every corner of the room. When he was little, he would sit on his father's knee and play with Yusuf's fingers, as if each finger told a story. I remember the day Omar learned his first surah by heart. He was 6 and proud of himself, walking around with a little swagger no one could take away. He stood in front of me, his lips moving, his eyebrows lifting at every word. When he finished, he looked at me as if he had climbed a mountain. I kissed his forehead and said, "Alhamdulillah. May Allah open your heart and protect your tongue." He giggled and ran outside to show his father. Life had a rhythm then. It was not easy, but it made sense. Yusuf would go to the shop, I would sew clothes for the ladies in our neighborhood or knead dough for bread, and Omar would go to school. After Asr, we would sit together and drink tea. A small radio would play in the corner, and the world seemed no bigger than our small rooms and the sky above them. Then Yusuf died. It was a quiet illness that turned into a sudden farewell. One day he was sitting with his ledger, his pencil behind his ear, and the next day his breath was short and his eyes were tired. We tried everything we could, but Allah had written differently for us. He passed away at night, with my hand in his and Omar's small head resting on my lap, fast asleep. I remember whispering, "La ilaha illallah," and feeling half of my heart go with him. After that, the house felt bigger and emptier. I learned to close the shop and to fold away his shirts. I learned to speak to the banker and to carry sacks of rice that were too heavy for me. I learned to sew until my fingers cramped and to count coins like they mattered. And they did. Every coin was a step for Omar. Omar became my light. I do not say this because I am his mother. I say it because it was true. He studied hard, not for grades, but for me. He watched me from the door when I worked late. He would tiptoe and cover me with a shawl when I fell asleep sitting up. He learned early that love is not a word, it is an act, and sometimes it is a quiet one. On Fridays, we would walk to the mosque together. He would hold my hand even when he was too old for it. We would come home with warm bread, our fingers burning a little, laughing at the heat. On those days, the sun seemed kinder. On those days, I felt the nearness of Allah like a soft cloth on my face. I would say, "We are okay, my son, we have enough." And he would nod, as if he already knew. Omar finished school and went to university. I was afraid at first. The campus was far, the world outside our neighborhood was wide and fast. But he did well. He studied engineering, and he used to call me late at night and tell me about bridges and water systems and things I could not see. I would listen, and I would say, "Mashallah, my son." Even if I did not understand all the details, I understood his joy. He graduated on a day full of sun and wind. I wore my best scarf, a simple cream one with a thin blue line, and I brought a small bag of sweets to share. When they called his name, my heart clapped inside my chest. People looked at me when I cried, but I did not care. I cried because I remembered his small hand holding mine on Fridays, and now his hand was too big to hold. He started working. He left early and came back late. He saved money for our future. He would bring home small gifts for me, new teacups, a knife set, a scarf I did not need but loved anyway. He would sit by the window and tell me about his office, his team, and his dreams. He had many. He wanted to build things that lasted longer than a person's life. He wanted to do something good with his hands. The first time he mentioned Nadia, his eyes changed. They softened. He said her name as if it was a song he did not want to sing too loudly. "She is kind, Mama," he said. "She studies hard. She cares for her mother. She prays. She is simple. You will like her." I listened and nodded, and I could feel my heart stretching, making room for the girl I had not met. The day I met Nadia, she wore a simple dress and a shy smile. She brought a cake she had baked herself, and it was not perfect, but it was sweet. She helped me in the kitchen without asking, and when we sat to eat, she listened more than she spoke. I watched her eyes when she looked at Omar. There was respect there, and something careful, like a new plant finding its way to light. Their wedding was small but full of warmth. We held it in a community hall not far from our home. White flowers on the tables, golden lights strung across the room, and laughter that rose and fell like a song. I remember the moment I fixed Nadia's scarf before she entered. My fingers trembled, and I whispered, "May Allah make your home a place of mercy." She held my hand and whispered, "Ameen." Letting Omar go was not easy, but I did it with joy. He was a man now. He had chosen a partner. This is the way of life. Our children are lent to us by Allah. We do our best, then we let them go, and we trust that Allah will hold them in ways we cannot. At first, everything was smooth. I visited them on weekends. I brought food and hugs and stories. I tried not to stay long. I tried to be light like a breeze that comes and goes without moving anything. Nadia would serve tea, and we would sit and talk about small things, the weather, a family on the next street, the mosque's new tiles. She was always polite, her manners were good. But there was a distance in her that I could not cross. It was not unkindness, it was a line. I told myself, "This is normal, Fatima. She is young. You are her elder. She will grow close when time ripens her heart. Do not rush people. Flowers open slowly." So I watched her, and I waited. I tried to learn her ways. She liked the kitchen clean, the surfaces dry, the spices arranged in straight lines. She liked silence in the morning and soft music in the evening. I could accept all that. A home is like a person. It has its own character. We must respect it. Then the first change came when I fell. It was winter. The floor was wet. I slipped near the sink and broke my wrist. It was not a big break, but it made simple tasks painful. Omar came running when I called him. He helped me dress, helped me climb into his car, and held my hand all the way to the hospital. His face was pale and scared. He looked like a boy again. After that, he insisted I stay with them for a while. "Just until you heal, Mama," he said. "It will be easier," Nadia agreed. She nodded and smiled, and she made a bed for me in the small room near their kitchen. She brought me a glass of water and turned on the heater. She even placed my prayer mat near the window. "It gets good light here," she said. I thanked her and thought, "Alhamdulillah, we will manage." Those first days were peaceful. I moved slowly. I kept my things neat. I tried to help, but I was clumsy with one hand. Nadia worked from home sometimes. She had a desk in the corner and a small plant that leaned toward the window. She was careful with her time. She made lists. She liked quiet during her calls. I learned to walk softly. As my wrist healed, I began to do more. I cooked on Mondays and Thursdays, the simple foods my family loved. Lentil soup with lemon, spinach with garlic, rice with saffron and peas. Omar would come home and kiss my head. "It smells like childhood in here," he would say, and my heart would feel full. Nadia would smile and say, "Thank you, Auntie." Her smile was real, but her eyes were tired. Living with our children is not easy. Even when there is love, there are ways, there are habits. I woke early to pray and make tea. Sometimes I forgot how much noise a spoon makes in a quiet house. Sometimes I left a towel on a chair, thinking I would come back to fold it, and then I forgot. Sometimes I cleaned the way my mother taught me, and it was not the way that made sense to them. Small things began to look big. It was not my wish. It was not theirs. It is simply what happens in tight spaces where hearts are private and days are long. I would hear a drawer close a little too firmly. I would see a look on Nadia's face when she found the salt in the wrong place. I would feel Omar's softness disappear when he was caught between us, like a rope pulled gently from both sides. I tried to talk to him. One evening, after dinner, I said, "My son, am I a burden?" He put down his spoon and reached for my hand. "Mama, don't say that. You are never a burden." I nodded, but I still felt something heavy in the room that none of us could lift. I prayed more. I asked Allah to make me light. I asked Him to fill our home with mercy. I reminded myself of patience. Sabr is not just waiting. It is waiting without bitterness, without a sour taste in the mouth. It is believing that the one who sees us will send ease, even if it comes slowly. Sometimes I would sit by the window in the small room and look at the plant Nadia cared for. Its leaves were shiny and green. It was a little like her, quiet, clean, reaching for the light but not interested in being touched. I respected that. Not everyone shows love with the same hands. Some people love you by making space, not by holding you close. When my wrist healed, I said I would go back to my apartment. Omar insisted I stay a little longer. "Stay until spring, Mama," he said. "We'll make it work." Nadia did not say much. She smiled and served more tea. I wanted to leave them to their life, but I also wanted a few more days of hearing my son come home, of cooking his favorite foods, of feeling useful in simple ways. And so the days stretched. We made room where we could. We bumped into each other where we couldn't. I tried to keep to my corner. I tried to take my size to my prayer mat and not to the living room. I tried to teach myself that love does not need to be everywhere to be true. It can sit quietly in one chair and be enough. There were moments of ease, too. One rainy afternoon, all three of us sat by the window and watched the street turn into a mirror. We ate roasted peanuts and said nothing. The silence that day was kind. Another time, I taught Nadia how my mother used to fold samosas so they held together when you fried them. She laughed when one broke in the oil and said, "My hands are not as wise as yours yet." I said, "They will be, insha'Allah." I held on to those moments. I put them in a small box in my heart where I keep things that help me breathe. But the house was still a house of three, and three is an odd number. One will always be outside, even if she is sitting on the couch. Omar and Nadia began to speak in whispers sometimes. When I entered a room, their voices would pause. It was not always about me. Young couples have their own talk. But I could feel the change in the air, like when the wind turns just before the rain comes. I had seen enough seasons to know it was coming. I told myself, "Be gentle, Fatima. Do not hold on too tight. Do not make your son choose between rain and sunlight. This is their home. You are a guest now, even if the bed is yours and the plant by the window looks like it belongs to you." When I woke on the morning that Nadia told me not to come anymore, I had planned to visit only for a short while. I had made a small pot of chicken soup and wrapped it with care. I had watered my balcony herbs and kissed the edges of my prayer mat. I had said, "Ya Allah, make today a day of ease." I did not know where the day would lead me. None of us ever do. We just put one foot in front of the other and hope we are moving toward mercy. The trouble did not begin on that morning. It began slowly, like rain that starts with one drop, then another, until you look up and realize you are wet. It began with small misunderstandings that did not look dangerous. It began with love that did not know where to stand. After I healed and moved back to my apartment, I kept a spare key for Omar's place. He had given it to me himself, pressing it into my palm one day after Jumu'ah. "So you can come if you need anything, Mama," he said. I nodded and kissed his forehead. I felt trusted. I felt included. It was a small metal thing, but it felt warm in my hand. I used it with care. At least, I thought I did. Once a week, sometimes twice, I went to their home. I brought soup or rice or a batch of fresh bread. I would water the plant by their window and leave a little note. I watered the plant. "Love you, Mama." Sometimes I would sweep the floor, just a quick sweep, nothing big. I told myself I was being helpful. I told myself I was light. One evening, Omar called me. His voice was gentle, but there was a pause before his words. "Mama," he said, "can you please call before you come?" Nadia felt surprised when she came home and you were inside. She was not ready for guests. His words were kind, but they stung. I swallowed. "I am not a guest," I almost said, but I held it in. He was right to ask. He was building his own life. I did not argue. I said, "Of course, my son. I will call." The next time I went, I called. Nadia answered. Her voice was soft. "Auntie, today is not good. I have work calls." I said, "No problem. Insha'Allah another day." I hung up and sat by my window. The street below was noisy, but my room was quiet. I told my heart, "Be patient. Respect her. Space." I made tea and touched my prayer beads and asked Allah to make me wise. On another day, I went when I knew they would be home. I carried a small bag with lentils and a few lemons and a jar of pickled carrots I had made. Nadia opened the door. She greeted me with a smile, then looked down at the bag. "Oh, Auntie, you didn't have to bring anything," she said. "We are fine." "I know," I said, smiling, "but this is for me, not for you. It makes me happy." She laughed a little. She moved aside and let me in. In the kitchen, I wanted to clean up a bit. It is an old habit. A sink with dishes makes my fingers itch. I washed the cups and wiped the counter. I went to put the sugar back, and I placed it where my hand wanted. Later, when Nadia looked for it, she could not find it. She opened 3 cupboards, and then another. Her mouth pressed tight, and she said, "Oh, I keep it on the left shelf." "I am sorry," I said. "My hands are older than me. Sometimes." She nodded. It was a small thing, but it left a small scratch. A week later, Omar called again. There was worry in his voice. "Mama, did you move a file from the table? The one with the water bill and the papers for my office?" "I can't find it," I suddenly remembered. I had dusted the table and stacked a few papers, thinking I was being neat. "I put some papers in the drawer," I said. "I thought it would be safer." "Ya Allah, did I do something wrong?" No, he said quickly. "Don't worry, we will find it." But I heard the stress in his breath. He was not angry at me. He was angry at the missing paper. Still, I felt it as if it was about me. When I hung up, I sat by my prayer mat and whispered, "Astaghfirullah." I wanted to be helpful. My help was making things harder. Another day, I noticed their kitchen floor was slippery. I had almost fallen there once. I went to the market and bought a small rug with rubber underneath. It was simple, gray with little white lines. I thought it would keep their feet safe. I laid it down and smiled. "This is good," I said. "This is something I can do." 2 days later, I saw the rug on their balcony, rolled up near the broom. I stood there, looking at it. Nadia caught my eye. She explained, "It didn't fit well." I kept tripping. She was not rude. She was just telling me the truth. I nodded and said, "Of course." But inside, I felt like my little offering had been sent back to me. These small things added up like coins in a jar. The sound is soft at first, then it is all you can hear. Ramadan came. I love Ramadan. The house smells different during that month. Every day feels like a guest is about to arrive. I invited Omar and Nadia to my home for iftar on a Sunday. I planned the menu in my head: soup, dates, baked chicken with sumac, salad with pomegranate seeds. I wanted to feed them, to hear the adhan together, to break bread from the same plate. Nadia called me the day before. Her voice was apologetic. "Auntie, I have a deadline. Sunday is not possible. I'm so sorry. Can we do another day?" I had already marinated the chicken. I had already soaked the chickpeas. I looked at the bowl and then at the phone. "Yes, of course," I said. "Work comes first." She thanked me many times. When I hung up, I covered the bowl and sat on the chair. I told myself not to take it personally. I told myself, life is busy. You are not the center of their schedule. I took a breath and said, Alhamdulillah. Then I called my neighbor and told her to come for iftar. We ate together, and it was nice. But in my chest, there was a quiet ache. There was a day when everything felt close to breaking. It was a Thursday. I went to Omar's home with a small bag of fresh herbs from my balcony. I had called first, and Nadia said, "Yes, you can come for a bit." When I reached, she was on a video call for work in the corner. I moved softly. I sliced onions thin, the way my mother showed me, and started a simple stew. While I cooked, I heard Omar and Nadia in the bedroom. Their voices were low at first, then I heard a whisper turn into a break. "I can't do this again, Omar," Nadia said, and her voice cracked at the end. His voice tried to be calm, like a pillow. "We don't have to decide today," he said. "Please, breathe." I stood by the stove, my spoon hovering in air. I stared at the bubbles and the little oil circles floating on top. Their words reached me through the steam. The clinic said to rest. "But nothing is resting," Nadia said. "My body is tired, my heart is tired, and your mother keeps asking about children." It felt like the spoon shook in my hand. I did not know what they had been going through. I did not know there was a clinic or a rest or a pain that pressed them like this. I had made small jokes about future grandchildren. I had asked, "When will I hear little feet running?" I had said it with love, thinking it was hope. For her, it was a stone. I leaned on the counter and whispered, "Ya Allah," under my breath. I felt shame slide down my spine like cold water. In the evening, when Nadia ended her calls, I poured her some tea. I placed the cup near her and wanted to say, "Forgive me if my words hurt you." But I did not know how to open that door without flooding the room, so I said nothing. She said thank you and drank the tea. We were two women sitting side by side, each with our own silence. After that day, I tried to stop mentioning children. If a thought came to my tongue, I pushed it back down. I spoke about the weather, about the mosque's new lights, about the way the old shopkeeper still remembers my husband's smile. I tried to make the air light. I tried to be the kind of elder who leaves comfort behind, not pressure. But stress can live in a house like a smell you cannot find. It moves into the curtains, it sits in the bed, it folds itself into small things, like a spoon placed in the wrong drawer or a towel left on a chair. It does not need a reason to raise its voice. It just needs a day that is already heavy. There was a Saturday when I made a mistake. I had ironed some scarves for Nadia because I had time and my hands missed taking care of someone. I love the sound of an iron soft and steady, like a train far away. One scarf had a small stain. I thought I could lift it with a bit of lemon. I wet the corner, dabbed, and pressed gently. A light mark became darker. It spread like a shadow. I stopped and stared at it, my heart sinking. When Nadia saw it, she forced a smile and said, "It's okay, Auntie." Her eyes said, "Why did you touch my things?" She did not scold me. She did not have to. I scolded myself. Another day, I placed my hands on a small box near her desk to move it so I could dust. It was light, and a paper slipped out from the side. It fell to the floor. I bent, my old back, complaining, and picked it up. It was a simple paper, nothing fancy. There were dates and check marks. It had the name of a clinic at the top. I did not read it all. I put it back the way it was. But my heart had already learned what it did not know before. There was a quiet battle going on, inside her body and inside their days. I went home and cried a little that night. I cried for her, for Omar, for the child that did not come, for the prayers that stayed like birds with folded wings. I sat on my prayer mat and told Allah, "You know. You see, you are the one who opens and closes. Please make ease." I also told him, "Protect me from saying the wrong thing. Protect me from being a weight when I want to be a hand." Maybe that prayer came late. Maybe it was right on time. Only Allah knows. One afternoon after Asr, I took out my old knitting needles. My fingers moved slowly, and the yarn slid like a small river through my hands. I knitted 2 tiny socks. They were soft and white, the size of hope. I made them because I wanted to give a gift to the future, to tell it, "We are ready when you are." I put them in a small cloth bag with a little blue ribbon. I thought, I will not give these now. I will hide them somewhere safe. One day, when the time is right, I will bring them out. We will smile. The next day, I went to their place when they were at work. I know I had promised to call, but I thought I would be quick. I would water the plant, leave a container of soup in the fridge, and tuck the little bag into the bottom drawer of a cupboard where I kept the extra tea towels. It felt like putting a tiny prayer into the wall of the house. I moved quietly. I watered the plant. I wiped the window. I placed the soup. Then I opened the drawer and slid the little bag in, under the towels. I kissed the tips of my fingers and touched the wood above it, the way my mother used to do when she placed something precious in a new place. "Bismillah," I whispered. Then I left. That evening, Omar called. His voice was tight. "Mama, did you come today?" he asked. "Yes," I said. "I only watered the plant and left soup. I was quick." There was a long pause. I could imagine him looking down, pinching the bridge of his nose. "Mama," he said quietly, "please don't come when we are not home." Nadia got scared when she noticed someone was inside. And, "Did you leave something in the drawer?" My breath caught. The way he said it told me it was not a soft question. "Yes," I said. "I left a small bag." I felt my voice getting small. I added, "It was nothing important," he sighed. "It was important to her," she cried, "Mama." His words were not harsh, they were factual. They hit me harder than anger. "Please," he said, "don't leave things in our drawers. Don't hide things. It makes her feel like she has no control." I felt shame rise like a tide. My ears burned. "I am sorry," I said. "I thought it was a kind thing. I was wrong." "We know you mean well," he said. "But this is hard for her, for both of us." Then his voice broke a little. "Please, Mama, give us space." After that call, I sat for a long time in the half-dark. The sun had left the room, and the shadows were soft. I watched the dust float and thought about how some things are only beautiful when you do not try to catch them. I spoke to Allah in my heart. "Maybe I have been holding too tight," I said. Show me the line between care and control. Show me how to love without smothering. The next few days, I stayed away. I sent a message every few mornings to Omar. How are you? May Allah give you ease. He replied with short answers. We're okay, Mama. Work is busy. I did not push more words into his phone. I tried to hold mine. But there are roots that go deep. My love for him goes back to a time when he could not even speak my name. Letting go is not a sudden thing. It is a series of small releases, like slowly opening your hand after holding something for years. Some days, I managed to keep my fingers open. Other days, they curled without asking me. A week later, it rained. The kind of rain that makes the city smell clean. I cooked a small pot of chicken soup. The steam was rich with garlic and lemon, the way Omar likes it. I poured some into a container and wrapped it in a towel. I told myself, I will not go in. I will not touch anything. I will ring the bell, hand it to whoever opens, and leave. I also wanted to water the plant. Its leaves were drooping in my mind. I took a taxi because my knees were not interested in long walks that day. When I reached, I stood at their door. I rang the bell. My finger was light on it. I heard steps. The door opened. Nadia stood there. Her face was pale and tired. There were small dark circles under her eyes, like the shadows of birds. I smiled and held up the towel-wrapped container. I brought soup, I said, just for today. She looked at the container, then at me. She opened the door wider and stepped back. Come in, Auntie, she said. Her voice was calm, even soft. I went in. The home was quiet. The kettle clicked on by itself, like it had learned everyone's routine. I moved to the kitchen. I put the container on the counter and reached for the tap to water the plant. My hand knew the way to the sink. That was when I saw it. The drawer. It was open just a little. Inside, on top of the tea towels, my small cloth bag sat wide open. The tiny white socks were out, folded neatly, like a polite rejection. My heart sank. It was not the socks themselves. It was the message. We found what you hid. We do not want it here. I reached for the plant instead. I gave it a little water and touched its leaves. They were warm from the light. My fingers were cold. Nadia stood by the counter. She watched me. There was no anger on her face. There was something like tired honesty. Auntie, she said, we need to talk. I nodded. Yes, I said, though my mouth was dry. She looked at the kettle, then at me. Do you want tea? She asked. I smiled for a second. I will make it, I said out of habit. No, she said softly, and she reached for the cup herself. I will. She poured water into the kettle and set 2 glasses on the counter. The way she moved told me this was her kitchen. My place here, if there was one, was on a chair. We sat. The plant watched us. The rain outside tapped at the window like an old friend who did not need to come in. Nadia held her glass and did not drink. She looked down at the steam and said, very softly, Auntie, I think it is better if you don't come here anymore. The words were the same as the ones in my memory now. They were kind in their shape, but sharp in their work. I felt them cut through all my plans. I felt them cut through all my small hopes that told me maybe if I just brought soup, if I just watered plants, if I just made myself small enough. Some doors close even when you stand very still. I swallowed. My first instinct was to defend myself, to say, I am not like other mothers-in-law you have heard about. I worked hard to be careful. I tried to be wind, not a storm. But I have learned that when a person brings you their boundary, it is not the time to bring your resume. It is time to listen. Okay, I said after a breath. If this is what you want, I was surprised by how steady my voice sounded. Inside me, a wave was rising, but my face was quiet. She looked at me. There were tears in her eyes that did not fall. "It is not what I want," she said. "It is what I can bear." Those words were heavy with truth. They sat between us like a third cup of tea. She continued, her voice a little shaky now. "Auntie, I know you mean well. I know you love Omar. You also love me. I can see that. But I am not okay." She took a breath. "We lost a pregnancy in the winter. Then again in the spring. I am tired. I feel like I am failing. When I open a drawer and I find a baby gift, I cannot breathe." I felt my throat close. My eyes filled before I could stop them. "I did not know," I whispered. "I am so sorry." She nodded, almost to herself. "We did not tell anyone," she said. "Not even our parents. We could not speak it yet. But your questions about children, your visits, the way things are moved in the kitchen, I feel like I am losing the small control I have left." The wave inside me still rose, but now it was mixed with something else, understanding. It washed away my defenses. It washed away the small stories I had told myself to make my actions look harmless. It left me with the plain truth. I had tried to help and had made a tender wound bleed. I reached for my tasbih in my pocket. My fingers found the wooden beads and held them like a lifeline. I took a breath. "Thank you for telling me," I said. "I did not deserve your honesty after my mistakes, but I am grateful." Nadia closed her eyes for a moment. A tear escaped in the corner. She wiped it with her finger quickly, like she did not want to give it attention. "I don't want to lose you," she said, "but I need to feel safe in my home." I nodded. "I hear you," I said. "Home is a mercy. If my presence removes that mercy, then love must find another way to stand." We sat in silence. The kettle had stopped clicking long ago. The tea had gone cold. The plant's leaves held a tiny drop of water I had spilled. It did not fall. It just stayed there, like a little glass jewel. "I will go now," I said finally. I stood up slowly, my knees reminding me of my years. I took the empty container I had brought, even though it still had soup, because I did not want to leave my things in a place where my presence had become heavy. I walked to the door. As I reached it, Nadia said, "Auntie." I turned. "We will call you," she said. "Please give us time." I nodded. "Take all the time Allah gives you," I said. My voice trembled, just a little. "May He fill your home with ease." I walked out into the hallway. The light there was different, colder. I stood for a second to steady myself. I pressed my back to the wall and closed my eyes. The wave inside me reached the shore and broke. Tears fell. But I was alone, and I did not make a sound. On the way down the stairs, I held the railing and watched my feet. I did not want to look up and catch a neighbor's curious gaze. The corridor smelled like someone's cooking, fried onions and something else. It made my eyes sting more. At home, I placed the soup on my counter and sat down. The quiet in my apartment was full and empty at the same time. I looked at my husband's Quran on the table and thought, what would you say if you were here? I knew the answer. He would say, do not make a wall of pride between you and your son. Bend for love. Allah sees. I prayed Maghrib with long sujood. In my prostration, I gave Allah my pain. You are the one I run to, I said. They are young. I am old. This is their test. My test is different. Make me patient. Later that night, there was a knock on my door. It was Omar. He stood there, looking like a boy and a man at the same time. His face was tired. He came in, and I poured him tea before he asked. We sat. The same chairs he had sat in as a teenager, telling me about math and bridges, now held a different kind of weight. "Mama," he said, and there was apology in that one word. "I am sorry for today." "Do not apologize for speaking your need," I said. "Tell me what I need to hear, not what I want to hear." He looked down at his hands. He rubbed his thumb with his other thumb, a habit he had since he was small. "Nadia is hurting," he said. "So am I. We failed twice. I keep telling her it is Allah's plan." I say the words, but they are heavy and light at the same time. They do not take away the empty. "I know," I said softly. "There is a hollow that only Allah can fill, and sometimes He fills it with patience, not with the thing we asked for." He nodded. "I should have told you," he said. "I did not know how. I wanted to protect her. I also wanted to protect you from worry. I thought it would pass, and then we would smile and forget the months that were hard." I reached across the table and took his hand. "It is a mother's right, even when a boy becomes a man. You do not have to carry everything alone," I said. "But you also do not need to explain yourself to me. I will still love you if you do not." He took a deep breath. Then he said something that cut me, but in a clean way, like a surgeon's cut that can heal right. "Mama, we need you to return the key," he said. I looked at him. The key that had felt warm in my hand when he gave it to me years ago suddenly felt heavy in my mind. It was not just metal. It was a symbol, a line, a change. He continued, his voice careful. "We will always come to you. We will call. We will visit. But the key makes Nadia feel like she is never fully alone in her own home. It makes me feel split between being a son and being a husband. I hate saying this, but I have to protect my marriage." I sat with his words. They were not unkind. They were true. They were also a quiet betrayal of the picture I held in my heart, the picture of a home that always had a door open for me, a kitchen where I could stir soup without asking, a plant that I could water without thinking. That picture was not evil. It was just not real anymore. This was the picture now. A mother with a key in her hand, deciding what to do with it. I reached into my bag. The key lay at the bottom, among coins and tissues and a date wrapped in paper. I held it up. It looked the same as always, small, silver, harmless. I placed it on the table between us. The metal touched wood with a soft sound. My heart heard it like a small ending. Omar's eyes filled. He nodded, as if to say thank you for understanding what he could not say without hurting himself. He did not push it toward his side of the table. He left it where it was, like a boundary we both could see. "I love you," I said. "I love Nadia. I will not make you choose who you love more. I choose for you. I choose your marriage." He put his head in his hands for a moment. "I am a bad son," he said through his fingers. "You are a good man," I said. "That is what I raised you to be." He lifted his head. "Mama," he whispered. "I am sorry for all the times we made you feel outside." I smiled. "Sometimes outside is the right place to stand," I said. "From there, you can see the whole house. You can pray for it. You can guard it with your eyes." We sat a while longer. We did not try to fill the air with too many words. We let the quiet sit with us like an old friend who does not need to be entertained. When he left, he took the key. He did not put it in his pocket. He cupped it in his hand as if it was fragile. At the door, he turned back and said, "Please make dua for us." "Always," I said, "even when you do not ask, especially then." After Omar left, I stayed in my chair. I did not move the teacups. I did not clear the table. The room hummed with the aftersound of decisions. The key was not on my table anymore. My hand felt lighter and heavier at the same time. I looked at the Quran that had belonged to Yusuf. It lay on the shelf, wrapped in a soft cloth. I took it down and opened it where the ribbon sat. My eyes fell on words that I had read many times before. They were not new, but tonight they stood up and walked toward me. They said, "This life is a test. You will be tested by what you love." I closed my eyes. I thought back to the morning in Nadia's kitchen, her voice, calm and sad. My quiet reply. The socks in the drawer, folded like a lesson. The plant leaf holding a drop of water, refusing to let it fall. I thought back to the years before, that the first time Omar walked, the last time Yusuf smiled at me, the day I packed my husband's shirts away, the day I watched my son become a man. My life was full of letting go, and yet each time felt like a new thing. The turning point in a story is not always loud. Sometimes it is a small click. The sound of a key placed on a table. The sound of a mother's heart changing its grip. I realized something that I had not been honest about with myself. My kindness had not been only kindness. It had been a way to hold on. My soup, my cleaning, my neatness, my small gifts, they were also ways to keep a place in a home that was not mine anymore. I had told myself I was helping. I was. But I was also telling myself, "You still belong here," as if nothing has changed. That was not fair, to me or to them. This realization was not a knife. It was a gentle hand turning my face toward the right direction. I did not hate my love. I just saw its shape. I saw that it had grown in one direction for many years, and now Allah was asking me to shape it differently, to let it become wider, not tighter, to let it become like air, not like a rope. I felt grief too. I allowed it. Allah does not ask us to be made of stone. He asks us to be patient with the storms that soften us. I cried again, but the crying was different. It was not only sadness, it was release. It was the loosening of something I had held with sore fingers. The next morning, I woke before Fajr as usual. The sky was the deep blue that comes just before the first light. I made wudu. The water was cold. My skin woke. On my prayer mat, I bowed and told Allah what He already knew. "You took my key," I said, smiling at myself for the way I put it. "But you gave me a chance to love with more wisdom. Help me to take it." After prayer, I cooked a small breakfast for myself. Bread with olive oil and za'atar, tea with a piece of cardamom crushed between my fingers. I ate slowly. For the first time in many weeks, I did not look at the clock and think about when I might go to Omar's place. There was no "I might." There was only "I will not." Not for a while. Not until they call. The boundary did not feel like a wall anymore. It felt like a fence with a gate that would open when the time was right. A few days passed. Then a week. In that time, I noticed how often my hands reached for my phone. I noticed how often my mind walked down the street to their building. I learned to bring my hands back inside my lap, to bring my mind back into my room. I began to fill my day in other ways. I cleaned my cupboards. I mended a tear in a dress I had ignored for months. I took the long way to the corner shop so I could smell the flowers the man sells on the side street. I greeted the cats by the alley. I said extra salams to the women at the mosque and asked if anyone needed help with anything. One woman said her husband was in the hospital. I cooked soup for her, and when I left it at her door, I did not stand on the mat. I did not ask to come in. I learned. One afternoon, I was organizing the small box where I keep letters. There are not many. People do not write the way they used to. But I keep every little note Omar ever wrote me as a child. "Mama, I love you. Mama, sorry for breaking the cup. Mama, I will become a good man." I also keep Yusuf's handwriting. He once wrote me a list of things to buy for the shop: nails, twine, soap, wicks, tea. Even that list looks like love now. The way he formed letters, neat and steady. At the bottom of the box, I found an old letter from my mother. The paper was thin and brown on the edges. I opened it carefully. Her words were simple. She told me to be patient with my husband, to be kind to my neighbors, to not talk too much when I was angry. Then a line that made me smile. Children are like birds. You teach them to fly. When they fly, do not chase them. Watch them from below. Clap when they go high. Pray when they go out of sight. I held that piece of paper to my chest. I felt her hand on my head, even though she has been gone for many years. I whispered, Amin. While I sat there, my phone buzzed. It was a message from Omar. Can I come by after work? He wrote. My heart jumped, the way it always does when his name lights up my screen. Yes, I wrote back. I will be home. In the evening, he came. He looked a little more rested than the last time. Pain does not leave quickly, but it sometimes steps aside for a few moments. He brought a bag of oranges. He knows I love them. We sat. He spoke first. Mama, I want to tell you something, he said. Nadia and I changed the lock. I nodded. Even though he looked like he was bracing for a reaction. You should, I said. A home should feel safe. He exhaled and smiled, a small smile. Thank you, he said. He continued. We also started seeing a counselor. The doctor suggested it. To talk about the losses, to talk about our stress. It helped a bit. The counselor asked us about family support. We told her about you. I told her you are the biggest support, but also the biggest, you know. He laughed, embarrassed. I am both, I said, laughing softly with him. That is true. She asked me if I could ask you to take a step back. I said, I think my mother will understand. He looked at me with eyes that were testing their hope. You did. I am trying, I said. Some days, I still reach for the phone. Me too, he said. When I have a good day, I want to tell you. When I have a bad day, I want to run to you, but I also want to run to my wife. It is hard to choose sometimes. The counselor said it is not about choosing, it is about making space. She said, your mother has her place, your wife has her place. Do not make one place swallow the other. It is wise, I said. He nodded. We also told her about the socks. He looked a little guilty. She said, that was a gift of hope, given at the wrong time. I liked how she said it. It made me see your heart, not just the act. I looked down at my hands. I am sorry for the wrong time, I said. I keep the socks here now. I pointed to my heart. He smiled sadly. He reached for my hand. Mama, he said, I want you to know we love you. We are not closing the door forever. We are just learning how to open it in a way that does not flood our floor. I understand, I said. I am learning too. I am learning how to love you from a step back. We sat together until Isha. The sky outside turned from blue to black. The neighbor upstairs moved chairs. Someone laughed in the street. Life kept doing its little things while big things in our hearts were shifting. When he left, I stood at the window and watched him walk away. He turned at the corner and lifted his hand. I lifted mine too. I thought of my mother's letter. Birds in flight. Clapping and prayer. My hands stayed up longer than necessary. They felt light in the air. That night, I lay in bed and stared at the ceiling. I remembered Nadia's words. It is not what I want. It is what I can bear. Those words are the ones that dug a new well in me. They became a prayer of their own. Ya Allah, I whispered into the dark, Do not test me beyond what I can bear. Do not test them beyond what they can bear. When you test us, send us the strength before you send the storm. In that moment, I felt something that I think is the heart of this story: love without possession. It is a love that trusts Allah with the people we cannot hold the way we used to. It is a love that says, I am here, even when here is not at the same table. It is a love that does not need a key to feel close. After the key left my hand, the days felt different. They were not empty. They were quiet. Quiet is not the same as empty. Quiet can be a teacher if you sit with it and listen. I adjusted my life one small thing at a time. I stopped carrying my shoes toward the door early in the morning. I stopped cooking big pots of food, just in case. I kept a small kitchen for a small home. I made 1 cup of tea instead of 3. I did not set out extra plates. My hands still moved with old habits sometimes. I would reach for another cup and then pull my hand back, smiling at myself, telling my hands, you can rest. Each morning after Fajr, I sat longer on my prayer mat. The early light entered my room like a soft guest. I told Allah my fears and my hopes. I asked Him to protect Omar and Nadia's home. I asked Him to heal their hearts and bodies. I asked Him to forgive me for my mistakes. Then I asked myself to forgive me. That part was the hardest at first, but I kept trying. You did not mean harm, I whispered to my own heart. You tried to love. You learned. I began to walk more. My knees complained, but they also felt stronger with each step. I found a small bench near the bakery on the corner. I liked to sit there and watch the morning come alive. Men lifted rolling shutters. Women with bags chose vegetables. Children in uniforms laughed on their way to school. The smell of warm bread wrapped itself around the air. Sometimes the bakery boy would hand me a small piece of bread without asking for money. For you, Auntie, he would say. I would say, may Allah give you more, and break the warm bread in my hands, grateful for the kindness. I also went to the mosque more often. There is a women's room there that feels like a hug. The carpet is soft. The shelves are full of books with names I know and names I do not. I found a small study circle after Asr, led by a gentle lady named Samira. She speaks in simple words. She smiles with her eyes. We sit on the carpet in a circle, and we read a small section from a book about patience and mercy. Then we speak about our lives. One woman cares for her ill mother. Another is trying to find work. Another cried because her daughter left home after marriage and moved to another city far away. We listened. We prayed for each other. I felt my heart open to other pains, not only my own. One day, after the study circle, I spoke about my situation. I kept the details light. I said, I love my son. He has a wife. I tried too hard to be helpful. She felt crowded. They asked me to give space. Samira looked at me with kindness. She said, you are brave to say this out loud. Many of us are afraid to name our part. Your love is clear. Now your wisdom will make it even better. Another woman, older than me, patted my hand. She said, I wish I had done what you are doing when my son married. I learned later. You are learning now. Alhamdulillah. In that room, I tasted a new kind of hope, hope that does not need to hold everything, hope that can sit quietly and still be strong. At home, I cleaned the small balcony where I keep my plants. I trimmed the mint. I moved the basil into a bigger pot. I placed a small glass jar on the windowsill with water, and I cut a piece from my own plant to see if it would grow roots. It is funny, the things plants teach us. They do not shout. They do not rush. They stretch toward light and wait. Sometimes a cut piece grows stronger in water for a while before it can live in soil again. I watched that piece. Every morning, I looked for a thin, white line. The day I saw the first tiny root, I felt a joy so pure it did not need company. I also wrote a letter to Nadia. I did not bring it to her home. I did not send it with my son. I put it in the mail. Simple envelope, simple stamp, simple words. Nadia, my dear, I wrote, I am sorry, I did not see your pain, when I should have. I did not think before I placed the socks in your drawer. I know now how heavy that must have felt. Please forgive me. I love you not only as my son's wife, but as a woman who is trying to be brave in a hard time. I will give you space. I will be here when you want me near. May Allah fill your days with ease and heal what hurts in you. With love, Fatima. I did not expect a reply. The letter was my own small act of cleansing. I placed it in the mailbox and walked away without looking back. Days later, I received a message on my phone. It was from Nadia. Auntie, it said, thank you for your letter, I cried. Your words felt like a soft blanket. I am sorry for my harshness. I did not mean to hurt you. I was drowning. Thank you for understanding. Can we speak one day soon? Not today, but soon. I pressed the phone to my chest. I closed my eyes and whispered, Alhamdulillah. I wrote back, yes, my dear, when you are ready. Omar visited me a little more often after work. We did not talk about the pain every time. We spoke about small things. Small things can save you when big things are too heavy. He told me about a bridge project at his office. He showed me a video of a stray cat that had started waiting at the door of their building. Nadia feeds her, he said with a small smile. She named her Baraka, blessing. We laughed at the name. We sent the cat blessings from our hearts. We found new ways to be close that did not crowd. On Sundays after Duhr, we agreed to meet at the small park near my building. It has a few trees and a fountain that only works sometimes. We sat on a bench in the shade. We ate oranges from the bag he brought. We did not visit his home. We did not open old drawers. We opened our palms and let the orange juice make them sticky. Sometimes, after we ate, he would hold my hand. Sometimes he would not. On all those days, I felt seen. A month passed, then 2. Time was doing its quiet work. It was knitting us back together in a new pattern. Not the old one, not a worse one, just a different one. One evening near Maghrib, there was another knock on my door. When I opened it, Nadia stood there. She had come alone. She held a small pot in her hands. Inside it, a little green plant stood brave, the same kind of plant that lived by their window. Peace be upon you, she said. And peace be upon you, I said. My voice was calm, but inside, my heart beat like it does when you see a child at your door with a surprise. This is for you, she said, lifting the pot a little. It is a cutting from our plant. I thought, it might like your window. I took the pot slowly. My fingers touched the edge of the clay. It was cool. The soil was slightly damp. Thank you, I said. It will like my window. My window will like it too. We smiled. Can I come in? She asked. Yes, I said. I moved aside, and she entered. She took off her shoes and placed them neatly by the door. She looked around my small room as if to say hello to the things I live with. The wooden chair, the small rug, the green shawl on the couch, the photograph of Yusuf on the shelf. She walked to it and nodded gently, like she was greeting him too. We sat. I placed the plant on the windowsill where the light was soft. The city outside made its little evening noises. I poured tea. The kettle sang a friendly song. She cupped her glass in both hands, and we breathed in the steam at the same time. Our breaths made a little cloud. I got your letter, she said quietly. I am glad you did, I said. She looked at her tea. It has been hard, she said. I do not always know how to carry all the pieces of me at once, the wife, the worker, the daughter, the woman who keeps trying. Some days, I feel like I drop a piece. On those days, small things break me. I know the feeling, I said. When Yusuf died, even the sound of a spoon falling from the time counter used to make me cry. We both smiled at the image. Shared sadness can make room for shared smiles. She continued, I think I connected the wrong dots sometimes. I thought your help meant I was not enough. I thought your presence meant I had to hide parts of my sadness. I did not know how to ask for space without sounding ungrateful. You were so kind. I didn't want to hurt you. Then I did hurt you. We hurt each other, I said softly. Not by choice, by fear, by habit, by love that did not know where to stand. We can forgive. We can learn. She took a deep breath. Tears filled her eyes, but did not spill over. Auntie, she said, I am sorry I asked you not to come like that. I should have spoken earlier, before it turned into a big stone in my mouth. You spoke when you could, I said. Even then, you used soft words. It is okay. I needed to hear the truth. We sat in that new honesty. It felt like fresh air after a room has been closed too long. We made a small plan, not a big plan, just a few steps. She said, Would you like to meet me sometimes for a walk? Just us? I nodded. She said, Would you like to teach me how to make the spinach with garlic the way you do? I nodded again. I said, Would you like to tell me when you need quiet so I do not mistake your silence for distance? She nodded. We smiled at the trade of wishes. We placed our new promises gently on the table between us like fragile glass. We also spoke about something I had wanted to say for a while. If you ever want me with you at a doctor's appointment, I said carefully, I will come and sit outside the door. If you do not want that, I will not ask again. She looked relieved. Thank you, she said. Maybe one day. Not now. But I will remember you offered. When she left, the air in my home felt fresh. The little plant on the windowsill caught a ray of the last light. I thought, we are growing a new root. In the days that followed, I kept moving forward. I started helping at the mosque with a new project. A few young mothers needed someone to watch their toddlers while they attended a class. I said, I can sit with them for an hour. I sat on the carpet with the little ones. We built small towers with soft blocks. We laughed at the sound they made when they fell. One little boy put his head on my lap and fell asleep. I put my hand lightly on his back and felt the rise and fall of his small body. It made me cry a little, in a good way. I whispered, Ya Allah, you put love in our hearts in so many forms. Thank you. I also met a neighbor named Lila. She is younger than Nadia, newly married, full of energy and opinions. One afternoon, she saw me coming up the stairs and sighed dramatically. Auntie, she said, my mother-in-law is driving me crazy. She rearranges my kitchen every time she visits. She tells me how to clean my sink. She wants a key. I listened. I smiled, gently at the way Allah brings lessons in pairs. What did you tell her? I asked. Nothing, she said. I complained to my husband. He is stuck in the middle. I hate feeling like the bad person. I said, You are not a bad person. Neither is she. You are two women who love the same man in different ways. You must speak to her kindly and clearly. Not when you are angry. Not when you are about to go out the door. Choose a calm time. Make tea. Tell her your boundaries with respect. Practice in front of a mirror if you need to. And ask Allah to make your words soft and your heart firm. She blinked. Then she laughed a little. You are very wise, Auntie, she said. I am not wise, I said. I am learning. May Allah help us both. She hugged me on the stairs. Her perfume smelled like jasmine. Slowly, my life filled again with simple duties and small joys. I took curry to the woman whose husband was recovering from surgery. I called my sister in the next city and listened to her talk about her garden. I learned a new dua from the study circle. O Allah, make me pleased with your decree and bless me in what you have given, and protect me from the harm of what you have decreed. I repeated it when worries knocked too loudly. Sometimes, in the evening, I sat by my window and looked at the little plant Nadia brought me. Its leaves turned toward the light by themselves. They did not ask permission, they just reached. I thought about Nadia and Omar doing the same, reaching toward light in their own home. I prayed for them. Ya Allah, give them light, even a small one, even a candle. Some nights, the prayer made me smile. Some nights, it made me cry. Both were good. Eid came. It is a holiday that carries joy in its pockets. After the prayer at the mosque, people hugged and exchanged sweets. I wore my cream scarf with the thin blue line, the one from Omar's graduation day. I came home and waited. I did not prepare a feast. I did not assume. I put dates on a small plate and made tea. At noon, my phone rang. It was Omar. Mama, he said. Eid Mubarak. Can we come by for a short visit? Yes, I said, my voice bright. Eid Mubarak. Come. They arrived with smiles and 2 small boxes of sweets. Nadia looked rested. Omar looked like he had not slept much, which means he looked normal. We hugged in the doorway the way families do on holidays, tight and hopeful. They sat. We ate dates and small cookies. We kept the visit short, as promised. It was perfect length. We did not try to make it more than it needed to be. Before they left, I gave them envelopes with small money inside. It is a habit I will not let go. Omar laughed. Mama, we are old for this. I said, I am older. Let me feel useful. Nadia smiled and kissed my cheek. Thank you, Auntie. After they left, I cried. Not from pain, from relief. Relief that we had created a new way to be together. Relief that I no longer had to guess. Relief that love can breathe even with fences. There were still hard days. There were days when I wanted to call and say, I am on my way, and then remembered that life is not a door you can open just because you want to. There were days when I saw a baby in the street and felt an ache that was not only for myself but for them. On those days, I reminded myself that our lives are written by a hand that knows better than we do. I reminded myself that patience is not the absence of wish, it is the presence of trust. One afternoon, Omar called me with a special request. Mama, he said, we are thinking of taking a weekend away to a small town by the sea. We need rest. Would you be willing to feed Baraka while we are gone? I laughed out loud. The cat? I asked. He laughed too. Yes, Mama, the cat. I would love to feed Baraka, I said. But I do not have a key. You do not need one, he said quickly. We will bring her to you. She likes windows. Later that day, they arrived with a small carrier. Baraka came out and sniffed my room like a tiny inspector. Then she jumped on the windowsill and sat next to the plant, looking out with the same serious face. She will fit here, Nadia said, smiling. She likes old couches. I promised to send photos of Baraka sleeping like a queen. That weekend, my home felt full in a new way. The small cat followed me from room to room. She slept on my prayer mat while I read. She sat near me when I drank tea, her tail moving like a slow paintbrush. I sent Nadia a photo of Baraka watching birds. Nadia sent back a heart. It was a small thing. It mattered. When they returned, They knocked on my door and stood with sun on their faces. They had a little sand on their shoes. It was good, Omar said simply. We needed it, I nodded. I did not ask for details. I did not need to know everything to be happy for them. A few weeks later, Nadia sent me a message. Can we come by for dinner this Friday? I want to learn the spinach with garlic. My face lit up. I sent back, yes. Bring your own pan if you like it most. We will cook it together. She replied with a smile. That Friday, we cooked side by side in my small kitchen. The pan sizzled. The garlic filled the room with a smell that brings families together. I showed her how to press the spinach so it gives up its water gently. She showed me how to add a squeeze of lemon at the end to make it bright. We ate together, the three of us, and the silence was kind again. No one rushed. No one made an old argument new. We simply ate and said, "This is good," and meant more than the food. At the door, when they left, Nadia hugged me long. She whispered, "Thank you for waiting for me to come back on my own feet," I whispered. "Thank you for walking toward me." Time kept going. Summer turned into autumn. The leaves on the street turned gold and then brown. I knitted a small scarf for myself. The plant on my windowsill grew taller. I had to move it into a bigger pot. Roots need room, so does love. In the study circle, I started to share hope more than complaint. I told the women, "My daughter-in-law brought me a plant." One laughed and said, "You see, the dunya is not so cruel." We prayed for each other's families, again and again. We named our children in our duas, and our children's spouses, and our parents, and ourselves. We asked Allah to turn our homes into places of mercy. We asked Him to make us people of gentleness, not because life is easy, but because the heart is stronger that way. On a soft Sunday morning, I visited Yusuf's grave. I do this a few times a year. I do not stay long. I stand, say salam, recite a small surah, and speak a few words into the wind. "Your son is a good man," I said that day. "You would be proud. His wife is brave. They are learning to hold hands even when the world pulls at them." I smiled to myself. "Your wife is learning too." The sky above was pale blue. The air was cool. I felt a calm that did not need explanation. A last piece I want to tell you is about forgiveness. Forgiveness is not a ceremony. It is a daily act. I forgave Nadia the day she asked me not to come. I forgave her again the day she brought the plant. I forgave myself for the socks in the drawer. I forgave Omar for asking for the key, and I forgave him again when I remembered how much courage it took him to do that. I asked Allah to forgive me for the moments when my heart hardened a little before it softened. I asked Him to forgive me for the thoughts I did not say out loud but held like little stones. And when He gave me peace after those prayers, I tried to hold on to it with care. When I think about that day in the kitchen now, I do not feel only pain. I feel a lesson that saved us from a bigger hurt. If I had refused, if I had argued, if I had held on to that key as if it was my last breath, I might have lost more than access to a home. I might have lost my son. I might have lost my daughter-in-law. I might have lost myself. Instead, we all found a calmer version of our love. I am not saying our story is perfect now. No story is. We still sometimes step on each other's toes. We still sometimes say it's fine when it is not. But now we know what to do after. We know we can pause. We know we can send a message and say, "Can we try again?" We know we can sit at a table and drink tea and hold our silence without fear. I still sit at my window early in the morning. I still touch my prayer beads and count the names of the one who never sleeps. I still ask Him for mercy that covers the places my hands cannot reach. And I still remember the sound a key makes when you place it on a table. It is a small sound, but in that sound, a life can change direction toward ease. If you are listening to me now, and your heart feels heavy like mine did, I want to tell you something simple. Love is not a house. It is not a key. It is not a cupboard or a drawer. Love is a prayer. Love is a small tea shared at the right time. Love is a step back when you want to step forward. Love is a fence with a gate that opens to the right hands at the right time. Love is a plant that leans toward light. If you turn it, it turns again. If you cut it, it can grow new roots in water. It does not rush. It does not demand. It trusts the sun. I used to think I could protect my family by doing. By cooking, by cleaning, by fixing small things before they broke. Now, I know I can also protect them by not doing. By not moving things that are not mine. By not opening doors that are not mine to open. By not asking questions that add weight to a heart that is already carrying too much. My hands feel different now. They are not empty, they are open. I also want to speak to mothers like me. We love our children so much that we forget our love can press too hard. We forget that they need to build their own corners. We forget that a marriage is a new home, not an extension of ours. If your son asks for space, breathe. Do not take it as a rejection. Take it as a sign that you raised a man who knows how to protect his home. Celebrate that in your sujood. Wipe your tears on your prayer mat and say, Alhamdulillah, I did my job. Now I will do a different one. And to daughters-in-law like Nadia, I say this with my hand on my heart, we are human too. We come with stories and worries and old habits. We do not always see well. Speak to us with kindness. Tell us your needs before your heart breaks. We will not always understand at first, but if you place your words gently in our hands, we will learn to hold them. We want to be on your side. We want to be your ally. Help us to help you. To sons like Omar, who stand in the middle and feel pulled in two directions, I say, you are not a rope, you are a bridge. You can carry love from one side to the other if you stand strong and honest. Do not avoid hard talks. Do not hide truth until it becomes a storm. Speak with respect to the woman who raised you and to the woman who chose you. You can honor both if you do not let fear speak for you. As for me, I have not regained a key. I do not need one. The door to their home is not mine to open. The door to my love is always open. When they call me, I answer. When they need me, I come. When they need space, I stay. I put their names in my du'as the way I put salt in food. With care, with consistency, sometimes with tears. This is my place now. It is not small. It is not less. It is different. Sometimes I sit in the evening and watch the reflection of the city lights on my window. The small plant on my sill moves a little when the breeze comes. I think of Nadia. I think of her hands, learning new ways to hold pain and joy. I think of Omar, the lines on his forehead, the lines around his eyes from smiling. The man who used to hold my scarf when he was scared and now holds another's hand when she is tired. I think of Yusuf and the way he would have said, let the new home be theirs. Let the prayers be yours. And I say, Amin. Maybe Allah wanted me to lose the small comfort of walking into my son's kitchen so that I could find a bigger comfort in walking into his mercy. Maybe he closed a door so that a window would open, the kind that lets light in without noise. Maybe he wanted me to learn that home is not a place you sit in. Home is a peace you carry. If you ask me now, are you welcome in your son's home? I will say, insha'Allah, when they invite me. And if you ask, are you welcome in your son's life? I will say, always, in dua, in a bench in the park, in a small plant on my windowsill, in the smile he gives when he says, "Mama." That is enough for me, more than enough. I end with a prayer. May Allah make our homes places of mercy. May He soften our tongues and our hearts. May He make us grateful in ease and patient in hardship. May He teach us to love well, not loudly, not possessively, but with a gentle trust that He holds us all. May He write for our families what is best, even if it is not what we expected. May He make us content with His decree and hopeful for His kindness. May He bring light to every window where someone waits. And if He tests us, may He send the strength before He sends the storm. May He send a sign, in the calm voice of a loved one, in a small plant that grows new roots, in a key placed on a table, in a mother's quiet smile. Ameen. If this story touched your heart, please follow the channel, like the video, and share it with someone who might need hope today.